Greetings, YouTube. LMS Tactical. I know you can't see me. Here, I'm driving. It's nighttime, so I gotta have the light off. But you don't need to see me to hear my message. This is kind of a follow-up on about 2 or 3 videos ago. I did one that talked about YouTube and how they were pretty much censoring everybody, like Facebook, and they took down one of my videos and said it was hate speech because they didn't like what I had to say about the illegal immigrants. And I went on a little bit of a rant, and it still upsets me. I mean, you look at guys like Farrakhan. I think he's still on YouTube calling Jews termites and monkeys and every other damn thing. So it just depends on what your political viewpoints are. That's what determines whether or not you get banned. So I already covered that. If you haven't seen that video, go back and look. It's about 3 or 4 videos back, maybe, max. But my dad and I were talking on the phone last night, and he said something that made me, I told him, I said, hey, thanks, man. This is going to be my next video. We were discussing YouTube, not in that context, just YouTube in the general sense. And it dawned on, he was talking about Facebook. And about the same time he was making his statement, I was getting ready to make mine. And it was the same point, which is both of us have, without really acknowledging it or thinking about it consciously, are rethinking how we say things and how we title videos. In my case, how I title videos and such, because I don't want the Gestapo to penalize me. And so that, obviously that's not a good thing, but there's a deeper scariness to this whole concept, and that's what I want to just briefly go over. And that is, who could have ever thought that in our lifetime, if you would have told me in the 80s, I'm on a quiet road now, maybe I can turn this on. If you would have told me, oh, watch there be a cop up here. But if you would have told me in the 1980s that I would have to stop and think before I said anything for fear of being penalized, in a country that I always thought was known for its freedoms, especially freedom of speech, I wouldn't have believed that it could happen. But here I am. I'm going to turn this off. Here I am, afraid to make statements and to call things what I believe they are, for fear of being banished and sent to the cornfield and sent to the gulag. That is absolutely terrifying on many levels. I mean, I remember when I first came to the East Coast, I used to have people visiting from California, and I would take them on the standard DC tour, and I would walk along in front of the White House, and I would say, there was always a protest in front of the White House, always, no matter who the president is. And I would say things like, man, what a great country we live in, where I could shout out, hey, fuck you, president, you're a cocksucker, and blah, 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 blah. And nothing would happen to me. But, there are countries where if you did that, you would end up with your head chopped off, or worse. And there are things worse than getting your head chopped off. So, I mean, that's how I grew up, and that's how I lived most of my life, even most of my adult life. And now, for the very first time, we are literally in the beginning stages of what the Soviet Union turned into, where people couldn't say what they thought if it went against the regime, because they would be taken off, out to the, wherever that fucking place is called. I can't remember. It's like they're outback. What am I thinking of? You know what I'm talking about. The Great Expanse, Siberia. They'd be taken out to Siberia somewhere and put in a re-education camp, where the re-education meant basically killing them. That is brutal when you think about it, that we are at a place in our lives in America. And there are no utopias. Every country's got its issues, but we're in the United States of America, and a fucking regular human being, myself, a regular Joe, a veteran. I've served this country. Many of us have served it, and you don't have to go in the military to serve this country. If you go to work every day and you follow the rules, and you're a person that obeys the laws, and you don't bring harm to other people, you're serving the country, in my opinion. There's many, many ways to serve this country, and one of them is just by being an asset and not a leech. Yet I'll type a fucking heading on a video now that I've been spanked by the SS, and then I'll backspace and rechange it, which means it's already ingrained into the human psyche. If it's happening to me, it's happening to others, where we no longer can speak freely. Hey, fuck the president, he's a piece of shit. You can do that if it's Trump. But if you would have done that with Obama, you would have been called a racist, and who knows, you might have been lynched right there by a mob of fucking liberals. So, I mean, am I fucking completely off base here, or do you guys notice this shit? And are you concerned with it as much as I am? That we now are in a position where we have to kind of look around and lower our voices and say, hey, I don't particularly like the emperor's clothes because I don't see any. I mean, this is America, man. And I believe that if this is allowed to grow and there's no indication that this is going to change, then we are literally living, this is no big revelation, we've known this from other issues, but we're living in the end days of the greatest experiment in humanity. Now, liberals will tell you, and European socialist liberal fucks, they'll tell you, oh, you think America's so great, your big ego, because you have a lot of materialistic shit. Excuse me, I get stressed out thinking of the death of my country. The greatest experiment ever conducted by any civilization known to mankind was the drafting and execution of the Declaration of Independence and then the Constitution. We have been the envy of all, and this is what's caused them to hate us so much, because it's a very fine line between loving and respecting what your neighbor has and hating his fucking guts and wanting to see him fail. So a lot of Americans throughout the years have been hyper focused on, why do they hate us? They hate us because we start wars and we fucking control things and we're this and we're that. And I've said from the time I was 15, they hate us because they are not us. That doesn't, that liberals cannot refuse to understand that. They can't understand that. But that's the truth. I've made numerous videos where I've talked about the big house next to the little house and the two neighbors waving at each other, but the guy in the little house can't stand the fucker in the big house and hopes to God his house burns down. That's just the fucking sickness of lower echelon humans. Because those people that hate us are invariably the ones that cannot wait to crawl their asses across the fucking border that the liberals don't want to have and become, suck off of the tit of America and turn us into the very country that they fled from. And so what do we do to perpetuate and fucking propagate our beautiful experiment, our shining dream on the hill? What do? We destroy it from within. And isn't that fucking sad? And YouTube and its little fucking millennial fucking employee communist motherfuckers that work there, they're doing their part to destroy this fucking country. Just like Zuckerberg and the media and the news and all these motherfuckers. And, guys like that are at my stage of life, I'm getting a little bit long in the tooth here, so I'm not in as bad a shape as somebody who's in their 20s. God, I feel sorry for them. Or God forbid, the real young ones are actually probably lucky, because if they grow up in a fucking dictatorship or a communist country, they're not going to know what it was like. Guys like me are just going to fucking, the communists and the Nazis that are running the show, they want us to just die off, and eventually we will, and you guys can fucking destroy this country. I don't care. It's pretty fucking sad, though. Hey, that's a depressing fucking video for almost New Year's Eve, but I'll make a better one tomorrow, and it'll be more upbeat. I promise. In the meantime, you guys stay safe. LMS Tactical, I'm out.